Today, I'm very excited to introduce my friend Amy. We first met while living at a wellness co living community in Venice, where she brought people together through her Entrepreneurs Roundtable Club. Since then, Amy has built a dog walking business that she now manages remotely, and she recently took the leap of moving to Bali, where she's been loving the lifestyle and building a new online community focused on AI. I thought her story would resonate with this audience because it's really about creativity, building community, and designing a life that balances entrepreneurship with wellness. So, with that, let's dive in.
Mm.
Welcome, Amy, to this podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. What a beautiful introduction.
Yeah, thank you. So, I'm really excited to have Amy here, and I wanted to ask the first question. So, you started an Entrepreneurs Roundtable back when we lived at the
hmm
co-living community in Venice. What role does community play in your life now, and how has it shaped your
Mm.
journey?
This is such a great question because I was actually reflecting on this before I even knew that maybe it was a question or a topic that we would talk about. I was actually thinking about sitting in the Entrepreneur Roundtable at Haven. And for the listeners who don't know, we lived in a commune basically in Venice that was
Yep.
like 80 people, eight houses, and there was a lot going on. There was a lot of like breathwork classes, yoga classes. And so I started my own class, which was an Entrepreneur Roundtable. And so what that means is basically anyone who had an idea or started a business or wanted to start a business, we could just co-create together in this room. We came together once a week and we shared different ideas. So that ran for several weeks, and I think it was successful in just getting together people and getting people's minds kind of moving, right? Getting some light bulbs firing off. And so that started, before that, I had the dog walking pet sitting business, but I was really isolated. And I feel like this will resonate with a lot of entrepreneurs is that it is very lonely and isolating when you're starting something new. Even with something like pet sitting and dog walking, I mean, it seems very simple, but I didn't see my team members pretty much ever,
Mhm.
right? And so it's like very isolating, right? You're just walking alone with the dog. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, whether it's online, offline, service based, they don't always have a team. Sometimes it's just themselves. Sometimes it's just solo entrepreneurs. So I was very grateful to have a team, but we didn't see each other. So that in and of itself was pretty isolating for me. So it was really lovely. I mean, just living in such an amazing artistic, creative space, but also having a weekly structured meeting that, again, like lit up those light bulbs. It was very inspirational, I think, for me and for the people that were involved. And so, how that's manifested today is I recognized from the Entrepreneur Roundtable at Haven how important community is.
Mhm.
And not just in a personal development perspective or not just in like a support perspective when something is going wrong, but a community of entrepreneurs that think like you, the
Mhm.
out of the box thinkers, the black sheep. And so now I live in Bali, Indonesia, and Bali is very much the black sheeps of the family have like all congregated
Yep.
in
Okay.
Bali. And I feel very at home. And so that specific moment in Haven, I mean, week after week, just made me realize how I never want to be a solopreneur doing it all on my
Mhm.
own and like proving to the world that I'm this like, wolf and I'm out on my own. Like, and a lot of teams don't work like that. A lot of businesses will fail if that is the case because they can't grow and scale, right? You
Yep.
really need a team for that stuff. So that I think is the framework for how I think now, and that community is so important.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that balance between in person and online because obviously a lot has shifted
Yeah.
online these days, and you're currently doing a
Yeah.
community online and then also the in person component. So I
Yeah.
wonder, how do you strike that balance? Because obviously online is very useful,
Yeah.
but then also the community stuff like in person, like we had at the co-living, is also very valuable. So how do you kind of navigate that discrepancy?
Mhm. Yes, great question. So yeah, a part of this too is knowing that I have an AI community for the listeners. So
Mhm.
what I do is I teach entrepreneurs. It's a weekly mastermind group. We have about 260 people, I think, as of today.
Wow.
And we started, my boyfriend Dan and I, who met
Mhm.
in Bali, Indonesia, that's a separate
Yeah.
story. We started an AI community together about 2 months ago because we noticed a gap in the market between entrepreneurs who were maybe doing what I did, like service based, kind of stuck in maybe an old framework or old way of doing things, but we're kind of playing around with AI, like using ChatGPT once or twice, using email, to practice their email writing or something. There was a gap between the implementation of what entrepreneurs can actually do with AI
Mhm.
and how non-techie people like me, or semi-techie people like me and Dan, my boyfriend, use AI. Like how do we bridge that gap? So that's part of the reason why we started the AI community. And also a fun note is from your first question of like, why is community important and how is that manifested?
Mhm.
So I knew when I came to Bali, Asia is very cheap. So I could have stayed in a hotel, I could have stayed in an Airbnb, but I knew that that would be somewhat lonely and isolating. I wanted to be around a group of people. So I personally love hostels. I know it's a
Yeah.
controversial topic, but I personally
Mhm.
love them. So I'm like, I'm going to stay in a hostel for my first 2 weeks of Bali.
Right.
And I did. And that's how I learned about Nomeo, Nomeo.io. It's basically
Mhm.
meetup.com, but for Asia.
Oh, wow.
So I learned about Nomeo through the hostel.
Mhm.
And so this ties into this question because in Nomeo, there's so many different free groups. It's essentially what we had at Haven with the free, the breathwork classes and the yoga classes and the self-development classes. That people come to Bali and they are coaches or they have something to share, something to teach. And anyone can set up a free meetup group or free Nomeo group. So I started going to these Nomeo groups, and one of them was an AI meetup group.
Mhm.
It is every Tuesday, and I still go about once a month, but it's every Tuesday in this beautiful co-working space in the middle of Canggu, the neighborhood I live in. And that is kind of what catapulted us into like, oh my God, the realm of possibilities of online stuff like AI and how to implement, right? So we took kind of our knowledge there, which is very, very techy, highly technical. These people are like engineers and stuff. And we kind of bridged that gap back to entrepreneurs and my journey of being a service-based business, wanting to implement AI and be just like 10% better in my business and more streamlined. So I think with the AI community that we have today and so many in-person events in Bali, I think it's a really beautiful mix between I feel like I have ample social life going on and social communities and with the AI founders group and all that. And then I also have a lot of the admin work and online work and implementing AI and doing the AI mastermind groups online. So I feel like I finally have that like perfect balance.
Yeah.
And I think that's very relatable for people too. I mean, if they want to go to in-person events, and then also mix like online. I personally was not happy working 12 to 14 hours a day on my computer. I
Mhm.
needed that social life, and I
Right.
think a lot of people do too. But that doesn't mean you have to trade your time for money and just continue doing only in-person events either. So hopefully the picture I painted is like someone is able to visualize, oh, okay, I see how I can do both.
Right. So, a little over a year ago, you were in Los Angeles and you moved to Bali. So, that's a pretty big
Yes.
leap. I'm curious what influenced your decision to move all the way out there, and how's it influenced and changed your day-to-day
Mhm.
rhythm and well-being, and also
Mm,
how has it been now um, managing your dog walking business remotely, given that you were doing that
yeah.
in person before?
Yes. A lot of changes.
Yeah.
My goodness. So you and I lived together, I think, yeah, about a year and a half ago, right?
Mhm.
And then the downfall of Haven
Yeah.
happened.
Right.
And for those who don't know, who are listening, we essentially got evicted and everyone had to leave within 4 days. So there was a mass exodus of
Yeah.
people leaving.
Mhm.
And then Haven got shut down, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
I want to kind of talk about what happened there and then why I am in Bali because I think it's very relevant. So essentially, we got evicted, and I chose to. I don't know. I was looking for housing. We were trying to get a group together from Haven to go live in a house or an apartment. Some of us didn't have the right visa. Some of us didn't have income. So there was a lot of back and forth with where do we go next.
Mhm.
And then I realized that, you know what? I'm just going to take a month off and I'm going to travel. So I went with my friend Jack. Jack. Yeah, I went with Jack and
Yeah.
we traveled over Scandinavia. I went home with him and I just kind of like left for a little bit.
Right.
Then when I came back, Jack and I came back, we were looking for housing. And I was essentially homeless for about 3 months as we were trying to find the right house and the right budget and the right neighborhood. And I had an idea of what I wanted. And every time we saw something that worked for both of us, right? He wanted to be a little bit more centrally located with a lot of buses and transit, and I wanted to be closer to the beach where my clients were. And then he wanted modern. And so we just kind of figured out we wanted different things. So it was really difficult to find something that worked. And
Yeah.
every time we did, it kept falling through. So we realized we're gonna, I still love him. I just FaceTimed him the other day. So, and he's back in Scandinavia, but we just realized like, okay, let's live separately then. So then I went on Facebook and I started posting, and this is very relevant. So I started posting, looking for housing, and this guy Brandon popped up. And I
Mhm.
still credit Brandon with basically why I'm in Bali today. So I moved in with Brandon, and we lived together for about a month. And you spent Thanksgiving there where we lived
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
And it was, a really cool spot. Then the landlord decided that he wanted to renovate, and he told we were subletting at the time, and he told the person we were renting from basically that everyone had to leave, or we had to pay double the rent if we wanted to stay, and it just absolutely wasn't worth that, especially in
Mhm.
Manhattan Beach.
Yeah.
So I, at this point, it was 6 months of packing up my bag and moving, packing up my bag and moving, and I was so exhausted. So I move in with Brandon, right? Before we got evicted. I'm sitting with Brandon and I'm like, Brandon, I don't know what to do. We have to leave in a week. I'm like at a loss. I don't know. I was just like, LA is not working for me anymore. And I also felt that on a personal level, it was really hard to see friends. We all lived in different neighborhoods. And I just felt there was a really like dark heaviness. The election just happened, right? In November, unfortunately, not the results that I personally wanted or my friends wanted. So I just felt really heavy, and I just felt like LA was pushing me out. And so what I didn't realize is Bali was pulling me in at the same time. So Brandon and I were sitting one day at Starbucks, and he's like, well, I know someone who moved to Bali. And I was like, give me their number. I need to talk to them right now. And I knew nothing about Bali. So a
Yeah.
lot of people ask me, why Bali? I didn't really know, to be honest. I just knew I couldn't do LA anymore, and I surrendered.
Mhm.
And so that brings me into the meditation part of this question and the holistic part of this question, which is like I just felt like last year I was forcing things to work, and it
Mhm.
wasn't working. Since the time we got evicted the first time to the time I got evicted the second time in December 2024, it wasn't working, and I was exhausted. So
Mhm.
I was like, Jesus, take the wheel, universe, take the wheel.
Yeah.
I need to surrender. And
Mhm.
I was like, sure, Bali, let's talk about it. So he connected with me with his friend Swan, who moved actually from Los Angeles to Bali.
Mhm.
She told me all about the different neighborhoods and the different sections of Bali and where
Yeah.
people kind of migrate. And I just thought it was really beautiful. And she just seemed so happy. And it was a long time since I felt that freedom and happiness that she just exuded. And so I booked a flight. And I
Mhm.
didn't tell anyone. I told like a handful of friends
Yeah.
and like one of my siblings. I have siblings, 7 siblings for those, and
Okay.
I'm the baby, by the way.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
um, and the crazy thing that happened is I bought the one-way flight, figured out the visa stuff that I needed to do. My passport was good, all that stuff. I threw everything in storage.
Right.
I really didn't have any plan at all. Like, did not see the path forward. I just knew I couldn't be in LA anymore.
Mhm.
And I left January 4th. And I don't know, I mean, the time frame that I'm going to say. January 5th is when the Palisades fire broke out.
Right.
And there was that
Yep.
mass fire, right, everywhere, and it
Yep.
like decimated entire neighborhoods. So that could not have been more of a clear sign that this is the path for me. This is the path forward. Everything I'm doing was such a green light.
Yep.
And so that was my energy coming into Bali was
Mhm.
surrender.
Mhm.
And with surrendering, I stayed in the hostel and I'm like, okay, show me what you got.
Yep.
Someone told me about Nomio. Cool. I went to Nomio groups. I'm like, show me what you got. Okay, I surrender. I'm
Uh-huh.
here to learn. I'm here to just absorb. I'm not here to force anything.
Right.
And so then it's like there's a lot of healers, meditation, yogis meditation experts. So there's a lot of that in Bali. And so naturally, I just kind of gravitated towards, with my surrendering energy, I gravitated towards those people.
Yep.
So all of my friends, like most of them don't even drink or don't party, and they are deep into their spiritual journey.
Mm,
So that was my welcoming to Bali, and I've been here 10 months now, coming on 10 months. So um, if there's one thing that I've learned coming here, it's that the universe rewards me for surrendering and going with
mm,
the flow. Kind of
yeah.
being in my feminine when I was so in my masculine the
Mhm.
past 1, 2, 3 years, and you kind of have
Yeah.
to be when you're starting a business.
Yeah, well,
So
that
it's
definitely
beautiful.
segues.
Yeah.
Yeah, that segues into my next question because you mentioned
Mm.
spirituality and sort of the vibe that you've been
Yeah.
surrounded with, and obviously, you know, uh, I've created a meditation brand where I'm teaching meditation to people, and we're
Yes.
in an environment where there's a lot of wellness enthusiasts. So I'm curious
Yeah.
what the culture over there is like. You know, are there, you know, people
Hmm.
doing yoga? Are there people meditating? Are they practicing qigong? Any kinds of like different wellness
Mm.
practices, maybe even that we don't practice here in the United States. I'm curious what
Mm.
it's like out there in terms of the wellness component.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, and your journey through meditations is always so inspiring when I see your newsletters and
Yeah.
the tarot cards that you're creating, and your guide that you created. It's
Mhm.
awesome, and all of it is very, very much what I've experienced here and what I've been learning in person. So it's like
Yep.
very aligned. So a lot of people here. So I live in Canggu, which is kind of like the Silicon Valley of Bali. There's a lot of co-working spaces. There's a lot of modern spaces, cafes. You can plugs everywhere. There's a lot of spaces you can host these Nomi events or these free meetup group events. So I live in kind of like the expat hub,
Okay.
and it's like Silicon Valley of Bali.
Mhm.
Then you have the heart of Bali, which is known as the spiritual, yeah, just kind of like heart or centrally located space. That's where a lot of yogis are, is
Mhm.
Ubud. So it's about an hour and a half north from where I am
Mhm.
now on a
Yep.
on a motorcycle, driving a
Yep.
motorcycle now.
Cool.
And in Ubud, you have a lot more of I would say it's like maybe 90% people there are super spiritual,
Mhm.
either yoga teachers or yoga trainers or um, Kundalini certification, energy healers, energy workers, light workers, any other synonym that is in there. And pretty much anyone you can think of that's like working on themselves deeply and in that space, they're usually in Ubud. And then
Uh-huh.
Uluwatu is the major other city, and that's really, really far south. And Uluwatu is known for kind of the more resorts, honeymoon, surfer type people. So those are kind of like the three main areas of Bali. So in Canggu, I find that yes, it's Silicon Valley and it's like the expat hub,
Right.
but it's still Bali. So
Yep.
there's still people that go and come from Ubud. There's still yoga
Mhm.
trainers and teachers in Canggu. And one specific thing that I learned was what I mentioned already, Kundalini.
Mhm.
So I had my first two Kundalini sessions, and
Okay.
it's, have
Cool.
you heard of Kundalini?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
The yoga or
I
like the like the
Good
experience.
call. The experience.
Oh,
So,
okay.
well,
Okay.
there's both here,
Right.
and
Right.
probably a
Yeah.
wide spectrum of
Yeah.
stuff that I'm
Of
not even covering.
course.
But what I experienced, I just did my first two Kundalini sessions or experiences,
Okay.
and it's essentially like, oh. I got a lot of visuals. I think other
Okay.
people have different experiences in their body. It's mostly like
Okay.
moving energy in and out of your
Right.
body.
Okay.
And you're clearing out past shit. You're clearing out past trauma from your body, right? The body
Right.
keeps the score. If
Okay.
our listeners have ever
Yeah.
read the book, The Body Keeps the
Of
Score,
course. Yeah.
it's the understanding that your body remembers stress.
Mhm.
Even if you're not actively running from a tiger, your body knows what it feels like to run from a tiger. So if you see an email come through from your boss and you feel it in your body, you tense up and you stress, your
Mhm.
body knows.
Right.
And it's natural to have emotions. It's not natural to be in a constant state of stress and high alert all the time. That's what causes sickness and disease. So I feel like a lot of people in Bali embody that and they know that. So they do. something that I did, which is Kundalini sessions, but then they go to work the next week and they're building their business. And then they might go to a yoga retreat or to Ubud for a day or a weekend and do some spiritual healing. They might be off their phone for a day and then they come back and they're building their business. So I think, again, it's the really nice balance between structure and actively doing things.
Mhm.
And then the feminine of surrendering, release, flowing, energy clearing, chakra alignment. That's been my experience so far in Bali.
Mhm.
And it's like, it's blown my mind because I mean, you've known me now for like 2 years. Like
Yeah.
I never really used to talk like this or practice these things so regularly. And one of the things I practice regularly too is I meditate. I meditate now every single day.
Cool. That's exciting to
Yeah,
hear. Yeah.
it's awesome, even if it's just for 2 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, of course.
And it's so important. What I realized the importance of is it's not actually about clearing your mind and like not thinking about anything and
Right.
then like, right? It's like truly breathing and allowing yourself to channel whatever comes in.
Yep.
And if emotions come up, that's wonderful. You're
Yep.
experiencing emotions, and then you can let the emotions pass. And then you have a thought come in, and that's awesome that you have a thought.
Yep.
Then you can let that thought pass. And you feel anxious, it's great. And
Yeah.
then you let that the anxious feeling pass, right? It's like the flow, allowing yourself to just kind of like reset and move the energy
Yep.
instead of, I shouldn't feel anxious about this. Oh, and then you're
Right.
like fighting yourself. And then you get
Yeah.
in your head and you have the
Yep.
hamster wheel. That's what I realized meditation is. It's not about fighting your brain to not think about
Yep.
anything or feel
Yep.
anything.
Yep.
That's the human experience. It's about the
Exactly.
flow, channeling. Constant movement and constant clearing allows your brain to understand that there's more for you, and then you can channel in more energy and more thoughts and more beautiful ideas. And that creates a better human experience.
I'm really glad you mentioned that because that offers a lot of awareness to listeners because that's
Yeah.
one of the common pitfalls, that people encounter
Yeah.
when they're starting a meditation practice. They think, I'm having these thoughts and I need to get rid of them. And
Yeah.
that's like another level of judgment that comes in, another layer of
Right.
thinking. So it makes it even worse and it becomes very overwhelming for people who are just starting out
Yeah.
to practice. So it's really cool that you've identified that because that is what allows you
Mm.
to really get the benefits of meditation is when you have that awareness of, I don't have
Hmm.
to resist my thoughts. It's all about observing your
Yeah.
thoughts without judgment. So
And
that's
something
cool.
I started practicing too, and I learned this in my women's group and when I was back in Los Angeles, is the phrase, isn't that interesting?
Uh-huh.
So, how I practice this is when in meditation, if a feeling does come up or an anxious thought or a to-do list task, right? It's like all the entrepreneurs always have to-do list tasks. It's like if a thought comes in, I think to myself, huh, isn't that interesting?
Yep.
And then I let it go.
Mhm.
And then the next emotion comes up. And it's like, isn't that interesting?
Yep.
And leading with curiosity.
Yep.
Isn't that interesting? There's no argument, there's no rebuttal, there's no invitation for more thought or feelings. It's simply witnessing. And I think, a lot of people, and I think this is in your guide too, you talk about the observer
Mhm.
or the universe as being the observer, right? And to me, that's what that means. Someone else might have a different perspective, but for me, it means I am observing my own thought with curiosity.
Mhm.
I'm like almost removing myself and simply looking at it from above and saying, oh, this person has an emotion. Isn't that interesting?
Mhm.
This person has a thought. Isn't that interesting? And
Yep.
I think that's very calming for me to embody that of like curiosity. Nothing is right or wrong when you're meditating, right? It's like
Yep.
leading with curiosity, and that allows for that nice flow to happen.
Cool. Well, I think so. We started the podcast talking about like AI and the community that you've been developing
Yeah.
around that. And then we started talking about mindfulness and meditation and wellness. So I'm curious, I wanted to reflect a little bit on the integration of the two because, for some there's a
Yeah.
little bit of a difficult relationship. Some people think, technology and all the apps that we have and notifications and now with AI it's possibly pushing us further away from ourselves, but then there could be another perspective
Mm.
that some of these tools are going to be very valuable. You know,
Hmm.
just people are using AI as like a form of therapy. They're using AI to like
Yeah.
map out blueprints for their daily wellness routine or give them advice on like healthy things to eat, how to cook a proper meal. So I
Yeah.
can see it from both perspectives. So I'm curious to get your take on that.
So I love this conversation because it I think it needs to be said, right? This a conversation has to happen because AI isn't going anywhere. I know it's scary. I know it's a new thing, but when electricity was first invented, people were scared of it. They were so scared of it. They were saying it's the devil. It was like the devil coming onto Earth and destroying everything. And as we know, electricity today and how we learn about it is it's really beautiful and amazing. It was the greatest invention of all time. So I think it's really that sets the tone for people think new things are scary.
Mhm.
And even when a phone came out, the idea that you could even talk on a phone without it being connected, it was like, oh my God, nobody wants that. Why would you want that? And now it's standard. So I think AI is just another one of those things that now it's really, really scary. People don't know how to use it. They don't know where it's going. Where's the ethics? Is it ruining the planet? There's a lot of negative connotations that are coming with it just because it's scary. And I think that's a very natural reaction. I think personally, and I've never seen this specific statement anywhere, this is just my own thoughts. AI is the first tool I believe that we can actually use to solve problems that we think it's going to cause. Let's take environmental issues, for example. That seems to be the main one.
Mhm.
What about the environment?
Sure.
And I guess it takes a lot of water to run the generators because it's cooling down the data centers. They're taking blocks of land and demolishing whatever's there, and then they're building these big data centers so they can continue running AI. AI, I feel like, is the first thing where we could use AI to solve that problem.
Mhm.
An environmentalist could come on and say, hello, ChatGPT, this is the problem in the world that we're
Yep.
having. This is what we're experiencing. I want you to act at, you always give it a role. So you say, like, I want you to act as the world's best environmentalist. Greta, right? Greta, what would
Yep.
Greta do? And so, like, and then help us fix this problem. And then you can give it a date. In 2 years, how do we fix this problem? And AI will tell you how to fix the problem.
Mhm.
I don't think that's been the case with pollution. Pollution isn't going to solve the pollution crisis. Tires aren't going to solve the pollution crisis. So I think it's AI is the first tool that we can use to solve the problem that it's causing. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep. I
It just
do.
depends
Yeah.
on how we use it.
It's true because I think it can be used for good and it could also be used
Yeah.
it's just a tool. It's like anything. You can use it
Yes.
for something constructive or something negative. And I think, the key is educating people on the appropriate ways to use it. But in that
Yeah.
sense, I'm curious, what are some of the ways that you're currently using AI, either for your
Mm.
personal life or for your business, and what aspects of it would you recommend that might be useful to
Mm.
others that they could implement it for?
So there's two things. One is going to be that I'm going to talk about is something that Dan helped me implement. We co-created it together, and it's basically an agent that does really incredible things for my service-based business
Okay.
where there was a lack of API integration.
Mhm.
So one is like a business case, and then one is an arts and creative and fun use case scenario.
Yep.
So I'll start with the business. So with my dog walking and pet sitting business, I was using a software, and I'm still using it for about 2.5 years. And this software was built, I think, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, and it was never upgraded or updated, which means there's no API integrations for marketing, email marketing, no text messages, there's no API backend whatsoever.
Yep.
So for like the techie people out there, there's no way for me to streamline the back end. I only can use the software. I can't use any other thing like text messages or emails or newsletters or anything.
Mhm.
They don't attach to my software.
Right.
That's a huge problem when I want to grow and scale. And there's
Okay.
also no calendar integration, there's
Yeah.
no scheduling
Yeah.
tool integration. Like that's a huge problem. That's like my
Mhm.
entire business is scheduling.
Right.
So I was complaining about this to Dan, actually on our first date, which is very embarrassing, but he reminded me. I was like, "Hi, God, I love my business so much, but I'm just so bottlenecked because I am manually copying an email into my software and then email into my newsletter, email marketing, and then into my flows. I'm manually doing this process. I'm manually doing this process. And he said, why don't you use an API? There's no API integration. There's no backend integration whatsoever, which is beyond me, but that's what my software chose to do. So he was like, I wonder if I could play around with this and figure out a way for AI to do it.
Hmm.
And he did it. He figured out a way. Now, I'm not going to say like, to everyone to go and break your software's backend,
Yep.
but he essentially did that. He like cracked kind of like the backend a little bit, and was able to have an agent that logs in and does this stuff. So from a client-facing perspective, it happens automatically and it's
Right.
streamlined. And then from my perspective as the owner, I don't have to touch anything. It's
Mhm.
automatically done. So this is essentially taking the place of API integrations and that need for an API integration. Now, it doesn't consider things like two-factor authentication or large corporations that have a lot of security, measures. It doesn't account for that. This accounts for basic software if you don't have any technology and API hookups or anything like that. He has built something that works, and it has saved me hours of manual work. It saved my manager hours of manual work. It's incredible. So that's
Mhm.
just one thing that he's built. And it's like,
Yep.
I mean, he spent hours researching how to build it, but the actual product is just a couple little squares that all do stuff and they talk to each other
Yep.
in N8N, which is a technical software that
Mhm.
we use. Aside from that, the fun part of AI of what I'm doing is I have a TikTok account. It's called Wonderlust ASMR. It has 26,000 followers now. And essentially, it's like, I just want to see what fun AI videos I could create.
Mhm.
So I love traveling. I love exploring new things. And obviously I'm in Bali. So I was like, wouldn't that be cool if we did kind of like an ASMR video where someone has like a hand and then they cut it, the world open and the world opens and you're exploring a new city and you can see
Yeah.
like the water and the sand and all these different flags and
Yeah.
figurines. And so I created that, and it was simply out of just what can we do with AI? I
Yep.
led with curiosity there too. What can I do with AI? How cool would it be if I could do something like this? And I think at a larger scale, and what I'm trying to get at is for anyone who wants to use AI and is curious about AI, know that it's still a tool. It doesn't replace solving problems in the world. AI doesn't know what problems exist.
Right.
AI is only a tool that can help you.
Yep.
You still need your creative brain and your creative thought process, whether as an entrepreneur, whether you're doing art with it or whatever. AI doesn't know. It's there and ready to serve, if you can
Mhm.
kind of like imagine that. So unless you come to it with an idea or a problem to solve or a curious question or, tell me about myself and let me know what niche I could pick out of you or something like that, I think having that thought process going into it makes it less scary.
Mhm.
AI is not going to take over the world. It's up to us to, again, use it as a tool for creativity or for solving problems that entrepreneurs have or in the world.
Cool. Well, we have about 3 minutes left in the call before we get bumped off. So I had one more
Okay,
question, then maybe we could wrap it up super quick, lightning quick.
sure.
But
Yes.
we both share one, among other things, we share one thing in common, which is that we're both very passionate and we're
Yes.
creating businesses around our passion. So I wonder if you
Yes.
have any quick, quick suggestion on for people or listeners on, what might be helpful for them in terms of like finding their passion
Mm.
and implementing
Mm.
that into a business.
Okay, so I'm going to say this is two parts. So one, when you're a child, your most creative moments are when you are bored and lying there or when you're playing, right? So as an adult, I think we've lost that a little bit. We're distracted. We always have and never-ending to-do list. I would say take the time to sit with yourself, be bored, and breathe or just lie there on the bed for 30 minutes, not using your phone, not distracting yourself, and see what
Mhm.
comes to you.
Yep.
See if curiosity comes to you. See if like, wouldn't it be cool if I did this or a playful, maybe like take a toy or
Hmm.
go be playful, maybe go to Disneyland if you could afford it. I
Yep.
mean, go and be in a playful and kind of like receiving mindset. And this isn't just for women, this is for men and women. I think we are in a culture that kind of says go, 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 do, do, do. But what if? we stepped back and we allowed ourselves to be bored. We allowed ourselves to be curious. We allowed ourselves to be playful. That's
Mm.
where ideas come in.
Yep.
Aside from that, I think the second point is going to be lead with curiosity. Again, that's kind of a theme throughout this podcast is
Yeah.
be curious,
Yep.
talk to people
Yep.
and listen to what they're saying. Are they talking about problems that they have? Boom, that's an idea for a business.
Mm.
Are they talking about how every time they open an app, there this happens and this happens and this happens? Lead with curiosity. Well, what if this happened when you open the app? Or take really any example, lead with curiosity. Ask them questions and listen. And I think that's like the baseline for just how to live your life is lead with curiosity.
Very cool. I agree with that, and I think, you know, final note and shameless plug, meditation is a great way for, unlocking some of that creativity. So if you're looking to have
Yes.
a passion project or find something that you're eager to do, one way is just like meditate, sit down, and wait for that
Yes.
inspiration to flow in. But I want to thank Amy for being here on the podcast today.
Thank
It's been a
you.
pleasure. And I will definitely share the links in the newsletter and online version on how to learn more about what she's doing and potentially join her community.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Henry,
Yeah.
for having me.
All
This
right.
has been
Thank
great.
you, Amy, and take
Thank
care. Have a
you.
great rest of your day.
You too. Bye,
Okay.
Henry.
Bye.